So we can't hear you.
Okay, so come back as we discussed. So the cartoonist describing the Iraqi constitution. Iraqi constitution is like a castle of cards. Castle of cards. Okay, a small disturbance will lead to the collapse. The entire system will collapse. Right? A small disturbance is enough. Right? Yes or no? Why it is so? So in Iraq, there are number of different social groups are there, different sects are there within the country, within the society, like the Shias, the Sunnis, and Kurds. Clear? They are always fighting to create a new constitution. They fought already. They fought already, right? Under the guardianship or protection of the United States, United States there. So they made rules and regulations to protect the will of each and every society. But a small disturbance is there in the society will create the destruction of the entire constitution and entire government setup. That's what the meaning of this caricature or this cartoon. What is your answer about the Indian constitution? Is that like that? Is our constitution is like that, like the Iraqi constitution? Not at all. It is not. It is not a constitution that built on or looking like a castle of cards there. It is a rigid one. Okay, so throughout the constitution we are able to find that number of provisions are there to protect the will of the people. Okay, checks and balances are existing. Checks and balances are existing in the constitution itself. If you find a problem in the same constitution, we are able to find a solution for that. Clear or not? Checks and balances are there. Okay, so here we are starting here from. Therefore, in determining whether a constitution has authority, you can ask yourself three questions. What are these three questions? To find out the authority of the constitution, the power of the constitution, we can ask three questions to the constitution. What are they? First of all, were the people who enacted the constitution credible? Okay, are we able to believe the people, those who created the constitution? That is, audio is not functioning properly. Fine. So we are able to believe them because they are the people, the national leaders. Okay, they fought for the independence or create a new country. So basically, they are standing for the well-being of the entire society. So we are able to believe that people, those who made and enacted the Indian Constitution, okay, we are able to believe them. The question will be answered in the remaining part of this chapter. In the sense, we will discuss about the Constitution or framing of the Indian Constitution in the coming chapters. In the coming chapters too. Okay, the first question. What is the first question? Were the people who enacted the Constitution credible? The second question, did the Constitution ensure the power was intelligently organized so that it was not easy for any group to subvert the Constitution? Subvert the Constitution. Next question. Okay, the Constitution is framed intelligently or not? Okay, so the Constitution ensured that power was intelligently organized. Okay, so No individual groups are able to subvert the constitution. Subvert means they are able to use the constitution for their own development or their own activities. Okay. And most importantly, the last question, here it is. What is that? No, not the last one. Here it is. Most importantly, does the constitution give everyone some reason to go along with it? Okay. Does the constitution giving chances to everyone to go along with the constitution or not? Okay, next one. Also, in the constitution, the locus of people's hope. Okay, where it stands, where the constitution stands related with the people's hopes and aspirations. What is the location of the constitution related with the hopes and aspiration of the people? That's what the constitution of locus. Okay, Latin usage, locus standi. Okay, for that we are using locus, situation. Okay, where it is situates, not situation, where it situates, locates. That's what location of the constitution related with the people's hopes and aspiration. Okay, the ability of the constitution to command voluntary allegiance of the people depends to a certain extent upon whether the constitution is just. Okay, so if you are able to get the positive answer for all these questions, we can say that this constitution is a just constitution, just a constitution. It is equal to everyone. Okay, what are the principles of justice underlying the Indian constitution? Next question. Okay, what are the principles of justice underlying in the Indian constitution? How just our constitution is? What are the provisions included in the Indian constitution that protecting justice in the society? That's the next question for us. Okay, so we are going to answer all these questions in this textbook basically. So I am reading all these things because this is the introductory chapter. We want to understand what is the importance of this textbook. Okay, what we are going to discuss. Okay, first of all, how was the Indian constitution made? Okay, yeah, the first important thing what we're going to learn, how was the Indian constitution made? So already we studied that the Constituent Assembly that set up in the year 1946 and we adopted the Indian constitution in the year 1949. Only we know that. Okay, class 8th and class 9th we already studied about different types of constitutions, right? And the importance of the Indian constitution and how Indian constitution came into effect. We studied. But I'm not thinking that you're remembering that all things there. Not thinking so. Okay, remembering that? Yes or no? If it yes means fine. Okay, so here let us find out how the Indian constitution was made formally. The constitution was made moving forward. Okay, so we know that the year 1946, 19 years, 1949. Okay, started and ended. We adopted in the year 1949. Okay, the Constituent Assembly, the body. Okay, basically that people, a group of people, they created the Indian constitution. They framed the Indian constitution. They wrote the Indian constitution, right? Okay, which had been elected for undivided India, right? So we know that India divided after independence in the year 1947, right? 1947. Before that, okay, so before that, the people is elected for the Constituent Assembly. It held its first sitting on, this is all the part of history, part of a history. First sitting on December 9, 1946. Answer for a question, okay. Right about the Constituent Assembly in India. Okay, 9th December 1946 and reassembled as a Constituent Assembly for divided India on 14th August 1947. Okay, by excluding the members from the Pakistan, right? Okay, its members were chosen by indirect election by the members of the provincial legislative assemblies that had been established under the Government of India Act of 1935. Provincial legislative assemblies. Okay, so for different provinces, They conducted elections. From that election, the people basically choose the people for the legislative, the constituent assembly. So basically, it's a indirect election. Indirect election. Okay. Today, if you are watching the television, you will come to know that what kind of election is there today. Today's result is coming related with a particular type of election. What type of election is that? Is direct election or indirect election? Local self election, local self government election. What type of election is that? Anyway, sound is not clear. Anyway, it is direct election. Direct election. Let it. Okay. So here they conducted elections to choose the members to the Constituent Assembly. Okay, basically it's a indirect election. Indirect election related with the Government of India Act of 1935. The Constituent Assembly was composed roughly along the lines suggested by the plan proposed by the committee of the British cabinet known as the Cabinet Mission. Cabinet Mission. Okay, so Cabinet Mission under the direct control of the British government gives suggestions and commands. Okay, and different plans and programs to create the new constitution for our country, India. Okay, so according to the plan, so what the cabinet commissions or cabinet missions plan here, each province and each princely state of or group of states were allotted seats proportional to their respective population, roughly in the ratio 1 is to 10 lakh, right? Okay, 1 is to 10 lakh. As a result of the provinces that were under the direct British rule were to elect 292 members, while the princely states were allotted a minimum of 93 states. That's related with the elections and the making. Hello? So okay now? Okay. So we must make our political democracy as well. Political democracy cannot last unless there lies the base of its social democracy. Okay, so political democracy basically starting from the social democracy. What does social democracy mean? Then what is the meaning of the social democracy? It means a way of life. Underline. What do you mean by the term social democracy? It means a way of life which recognize liberty, equality, and fraternity. Okay, as per B.R. Ambedkar, the social democracy is nothing but that is related with the principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity. Okay, and they are as the principles of life. Principles of life. These principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity are not to be treated as separate items in the Trinity, in a Trinity. So the three principles, that's what the Trinity here. What are the three principles? Liberty, equality, and fraternity. Okay, so it should not be treated differently. It is the single idea. Okay, it's a part of all these three ideas are the part of the Trinity. These three ideas, liberty, equality, and fraternity. They form a union of Trinity in the sense of that it divorce one from the other is to defeat the very purpose of democracy. So, dividing any one value from social democracy, it is against the purpose of democracy, it seems. Okay, liberty cannot be divorced from equality, equality cannot be divorced from liberty, nor can liberty or equality be divorced from fraternity. Okay, so all these three things or three principles wanted to accepted by everyone in the society, then only we can say that it is a social democracy or a social democracy is existing in that society. Okay. Equality without liberty would kill individual initiative. Equality without liberty. So equality needed, the same time liberty also necessary. Okay. Without fraternity, liberty and equality could not become a natural course of things there. So a person want to lead a good life or dignified or respectful life in the society, definitely all these three things or these three principles are necessary, basically considering as the values. for a society, liberty, equality, and fraternity. So by B.R. Ambedkar, Ambedkar, okay, in his writing, be able to find this paragraph, and it is too important for us. Okay, we are discussing about the social life of the people in today's India. Okay, easily we are able to understand that what is the importance of these three words like liberty, equality, and fraternity. Okay, liberty, equality, and fraternity. Without this, it is very difficult to lead a life in the society. Okay, so we want a dignified life, a respectful life in the society. Okay, so we know that all are equal before the law, right? So equality is necessary, justice is necessary, fraternity is necessary. Okay, the previous section discussed the three factors that make a constitution effective and respectable. How far does the Indian constitution pass this test? Okay, first question, what is that? The constitution makers are credible or not? Okay, they are authentic or not? Are we able to believe them or not? Okay, so composition of the constituent assembly, we are going to learn this now. The composition of the constituent assembly. Okay, the how the constituent assembly is made, we discussed that. That's one question. Now the second one, it is a composition of the constituent assembly. What different types of people are there in the constitution? Sorry, constituent assembly. Okay, as a consequence of the partition under the plan of 3rd June 1947, those members who were elected from territories which fell under Pakistan ceased to be members of the Constituent Assembly. So, the members in the Constituent Assembly selected in the year 1946 after the partition of India and Pakistan, they lost the power in the Constituent Assembly. The number of members in the assembly was reduced to 299. So, after the independence, the members in the Constituent Assembly that reduced to 299. Before that, we know that it is 292 plus 93. Okay. But now it is reduced to 299. The constitution was adopted on 26th November 1949. Okay, so in the preamble, we are able to read that. The last sentence says that, okay, do hereby enact and adopt the constitution. Okay, in what day? 26th November, year 1949. So 26th November is basically we are celebrating as the Constitution Day in India. Okay, so 284 members were actually present on 24th January 1950 and appended the signature to the constitution as a finally passed. The constitution came into force on 26th January 1950. 26th January 1950. Okay, clear? So nearly 284 people signed in that document and we adopted, and the 26th January 1950 onwards, Indian Constitution came into effect, came into force. So that day we are celebrating as the Republic Day, right? 26th January 1950. Why giving importance for that particular day, 26th January? At the time of national movement, Jawaharlal Nehru and his party, they already celebrated 26th January 1930 as our Independence Day, but we not got independence that day, right? That particular year. So to commemorate that particular day, again they choose the same date, 26th January, and it's in the year 1950. That's our Republic Day. We adopted the new constitution for our country. Clear? The constitution was thus framed against the backdrop of the horrendous violence that the partition unleashed on the subcontinent. Okay, so after the partition, we came to know, okay, there's a problem arose there. What is that? What is the problem? After the partition, a violent communal violence. Okay, uncontrollable. Okay, the governments failed to control that violence, a communal violence between the Hindus and the Muslims there. So in the constitution makers, they wrote a number of provisions to stop this kind of problems there. Okay, but it is the tribute to the fortitude of the farmers that they were not only able to draft a constitution, framers that they were but it is the tribute to the fortitude of the framers that they were not only able to draft the constitution under immense pressure, but also learned the right lessons from the unimaginable violence that accompanied in the partition. So The constitution framers, they faced a number of problems to frame the constitution, to write the constitution, right? Number of problems they faced there, and they learned many things from this problem called this communal violences or violence after the partition in the year 1947. Okay, so they adopted a number of new principles or new articles they wrote there to stop such kind of problems in society. The constitution was committed a new conception of citizenship where not only would minorities be secure, but a religious identity would have no bearing on citizenship rights there. Okay, so they made provisions for the citizenship of our country there. Okay, so there is no role for religion in that. Okay. But this account on the composition of the Constituent Assembly that drafted the Constitution touches upon only the surface of how our Constitution was made, although the members of the Assembly were not elected by universal suffrage. Okay. Anyway, we know that the members of the Constituent Assembly, the framers of the Indian Constitution, they are not elected directly from the people related with the universal suffrage, the right to vote for everyone. Okay, but it is a group of people they choose or elected by an indirect method. One that problem is there. There was a serious attempt to make the assembly a representative body. So they tried to create this assembly a representative body. Members of all religions were given representation under the scheme described above. So what happened here? Okay, they give chances for all the religions and its representatives to become a part of the Constituent Assembly and suggest their ideas. Okay, the Assembly had 28 members from the scheduled caste. In terms of political parties, the Congress dominated the assembly, occupying as many as 82% of the seats in the assembly after the partition. So they give chances to almost all the different religious or social groups in India to become a part of the Constituent Assembly. As a result of that, nearly 28 members from the scheduled caste. Okay, and from the political parties, nearly 82% of the seats that occupied by the Congress party after partition. The Congress itself was such a diverse party that it managed to accommodate almost all shades of opinion with it. So Congress party at that time, you can say that it's a party with a centralistic idea. It is not the rightist party or it is not the leftist party. It is not for the poor or it is not for the rich. Okay, almost all the different types of people are included in that particular party, in the party. Okay, so the members of the Congress party, they are able to represent the different shades of the society, or different sections of the society. That's what the importance of the Congress party and its representatives in the Constituent Assembly. Okay, so here. Next one, the principle of deliberation. We know that the deliberations and negotiations is necessary, too important in a democratical setup. Discussions are necessary. Okay. Debates are necessary, negotiations are necessary. So, a democratic government will take some time to basically take decisions. Clear or not? Not like other governments, right or not? It will take some time to take some serious decisions there because it can or it will take decision after discussions, long negotiations and discussions with the people. Okay, then only they will take the government. I mean, the democratic government will take a decision. Okay. The authority of the Constituent Assembly does not came only from the fact that it was broadly through, though not perfectly representative. It comes from the procedures it adopted, the frame of the Constitution, and the values its members brought to their deliberations. So we know that the Indian Constitution Assembly, the Constituent Assembly of our country, it is not came as a result of a direct election. Okay. Anyway, number of different people are there in the Constituent Assembly that are representing different social groups of the society, of our society. So, The Constituent Assembly give chances to each and everyone to discuss or to donate their ideas or give their ideas. While in any assembly that claims to be representatives, it is desirable that diverse sections of the society participate. It is equally important that they participate not only as representatives of their own identity or community. Each member deliberated upon the constitution with the interest of the whole nation in mind. Okay, so at the time of the making of the Indian constitution, the different people from different groups or different societies, they stood not only for the development of their own society, but for the development of the entire country, it seems. Okay, entire country. They thought a single country, we living in a single country called India. So development of each and every section of the people is necessary and it is important. They not fought for their own interest or to give importance for their own society. They stood for the development of the entire country. There were often disagreements amongst people, but few of these disagreements could be traced to members protecting their own interest there. So we are able to find disagreements also, but few of these disagreements could be traced to members protecting their own interests. Clear or not? So at that time of the constitution making of our country, we find or we are able to read or learn, there are disagreements also existed. Okay, there were legitimate differences of principle, and the differences were many. Should India adopt a centralized or a decentralized system of government? The first question, the related with the different opinions, different opinion. What is that question? Should India adopt a centralized or a decentralized system of government? Okay, so the members of the Constituent Assembly had different answers for this question. Second question, what should be the relation between the state and the center? State and the center, I mean the governments. Okay. Next question, what should be the powers of the judiciary? Clear. Next, should the constitution protect property rights? Another question. Almost every issue that lies at the foundation of a modern state was discussed with a great sophistication. So they thought or advanced thinking was there with that people. Advanced thinking. So they give a clear-cut ideas, even though there are differences in the opinion. Almost all the people they came to most advanced conclusions. Conclusion there. Only one provision of the constitution was passed without virtually and any debate. The introduction of universal suffrage. So one provision of the constitution was passed without any debate or discussion. What is that? The introduction of universal suffrage. Okay, meaning that all citizens reaching a certain age would be entitled to be voters irrespective of religion, caste, education, gender, or their income level. Income level. Okay, that is not discussed. Okay, which means everyone is accepting that, everyone is standing for that, right? It is something that giving liberty, that is giving equality, it is justiciable. All right, so there is no question related with this particular provision. Okay, that's what what I can say, suffrage, universal adult suffrage. So while the members felt no need at all to discuss the issue of who should have the right to vote. Every other matter was seriously discussed and debated. So, except this one provision, all other matters in the constitution is seriously discussed. Seriously discussed. Nothing can be a better testament to the democratic commitment of this assembly. So, stopping here. We'll continue in the next class. So remember, there are a number of questions are there related with the constitution there. First of all, we know that we started discussing here. Okay, how was the Indian constitution made? The history of the Indian constitution. So want to read all these areas perfectly, want to understand that, or it's difficult. So this is the essence of the entire chapter. Okay, this is the base, not the essence, but the base. Okay, so the method the government used to create the constituent assembly. Okay, what is the total number of representatives? What method used to elect or select these members? Okay, clear or not? I want to learn that. Years are important. What are the different communities they participated in the constituent assembly? Okay, or the members of the constituent assembly. Clear. Okay, what system they used. Okay, and B.R. Ambedkar's idea on liberty, equality, and fraternity. Liberty, equality, and fraternity, and how these three or this trinity is important for a good constitution or a good society. Good society. Next one, we discussed the composition of the Constituent Assembly. Composition of the Constituent Assembly. What are the different types of people are included in the Constituent Assembly, and how that function. Okay, want to learn that properly. This is the answer for that particular question. Okay, the next one, the principle of deliberation, negotiations, and discussions. How that? Okay, what are the different questions they came in front of the Constituent Assembly and how they discussed that? What is the only one provision that passed without any discussion? Without any discussion. Okay, all these things are important for the examination. Clear or not? So stop here. Again, two more sessions are there for today. Okay, we will discuss in the next session. Okay, guys, thank you very much.